This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Roshan Senanayake.
What's up, listeners? Welcome to episode 18 of Inspiring Design with yours truly. Today is all about building design, and I've got a close friend and a special guest here with me, Ryan Grose. Ryan is a founding partner of MR Designs and has more than 13 years of industry experience. He's worked in established design firms across all project types, but specializes in townhouses, multiple dwellings, new home designs, and Queenslander renovations. Ryan and his team recently won 4 awards at the Regional Design Awards by the Building Designers Association of Queensland, and he's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to building design. Ryan, welcome, and thanks for giving up your time, mate.
No, that's fine. Thank you for having me. It's fantastic to be a part of your podcast series.
Awesome. Can we start off by discussing a little bit about your background and history?
Okay, obviously, I'm a building designer. I didn't know I was going to do that at first. I thought I was in high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I had a creative flair, knew I liked the arts, graphics, fun subjects. So leaving high school, wasn't really sure. So I packed up my car and I went to Nambour and studied interior design. To start with.
That's different. I actually didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I did that for a year and got a Cert 4 in interior design, and then there was this class always happening next door at the Nambour TAFE, building design. And I was like, well, what is this? This is probably something I'm interested in. So I looked into that, and then the next year I swapped over to that and started my 2-year course to get my building design license.
Awesome. Yeah. And how did you actually realize interior wasn't necessarily your thing? You wanted to go a little bit bigger than that?
Well, it was when we were given one room to do and a budget and asked how many meters I need to reupholster this chair, I realized it wasn't my passion. So it wasn't, interior design in the sense that we use it in other businesses where we still, do kitchens and bathrooms and laundries. This was fabrics, and I was definitely out.
Wow.
It wasn't my thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think this is timely as well, because the previous episode was all about interior design.
There you go.
And Emma actually came from an architectural background, and she's now doing interior. So I'm finding this pattern coming across a lot within the different disciplines. But shall we discuss a little bit about how we become a building designer? So you mentioned the certification or the qualification that you went through. Can you explain the formal process where someone can become a building designer?
Yeah, so it is a tertiary education. So you do have to go and do some formal training on it. So generally you'll start off with your certificate 4 in building design, and that's enough to get you started in the industry. You can just do that. It's a 12-month course, and it will teach you the basics, construction knowledge, and will give you enough knowledge to go out there and work in the industry in residential.
Yeah.
And then, if you enjoy it, you pass and you have some success, you stay on and you do the diploma, which is the second year, and it's based all around commercial. So you spend your second year doing commercial buildings and projects. Right. And submitting assignments for that, and then that gives you a higher level of license at the end. That is fantastic, but you can have the same career at the end, whether you do the 1 year or the 2.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's recommended to do the 2 and get the full education.
Yeah.
For it. It's available online. It's available through SkillTech. I think one of the most renowned places to do it would be Brisbane Institute of TAFE here at South Bank. They run a very, very impressive course. There's a lot of feedback from there, a lot of great students coming out of it. It's fantastic. And then the next one would be Sunshine Coast offer it as well, and then it goes online a lot from there.
Right. And so what if someone's coming through, let's say, a tertiary level, going through studying architecture or interior or something like that? Can they then go on to become a building designer if they want to?
Yes, absolutely. So if you've studied architecture, you can automatically register with our governing body, the QBCC, and get your LOU rise license
Yeah.
straight away, and you can start working on residential and buildings up to 3 stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they recognize the qualification straight away as the same, and you can work in the industry.
So that's the restriction, 3 stories or less?
3 stories or less. So like we can do a parking basement and 2 levels of living above it, and that's our height restriction for a low rise license.
Right.
And then if you do the diploma, you get medium, and you can go upwards, and you can do multi-residential. You can't quite do the towers, but you can do up to 6.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah.
That's actually, I think, new information, because I think most people think that 4 stories is the cap. So there you go. You clarified. I think.
You can go higher, and then with the commercial side of it, you can do the low-rise license. We can do up to 2,000 square meters of new warehouse or new industrial space.
Right.
And then we don't have a limit on the commercial side for the medium license or the open.
Yeah, brilliant. That's excellent, and I think this is why you guys are doing really well.
Absolutely.
Considering what your restrictions are in the industry, so that's amazing. And so one of the things that I've been asking every single design professional that I've spoken with is, what are the software applications you use? So I given my background in architecture, I have a fair understanding, but we get a lot of listeners from schools and universities where they're teachers or students not necessarily in a design industry. So just to clarify for them, what are the software applications you guys use?
So in our firm, we use Revit 2019, which is a 3D software system, modeling system. It's fantastic. But I would say there's only 2 that really own the market. It would be that or ArchiCAD. Mm-hmm. We tend to see a shift towards ArchiCAD to the larger architectural firms, working on, the $1 million projects that span 3-4 years, and they job share and just mass modeling's in there.
Yeah.
We picked Revit. Every firm I've ever worked in has been on Revit. In 2004, when I got my first job, we were hand drawing on boards. Yeah, that lasted a week, and I was so nervous I kept scratching holes in my paper.
Is this literally with a T-square?
T-square.
Wow.
T-square pen, and then like eraser. It was horrible.
You know, the funniest thing, there's going to be teachers listening to this that are going to be relieved because that's what they prefer. But there you go.
No, it's hard, and I'm a left-hander, so I was constantly smearing my work back over the page. It's it was a nightmare. So I convinced that boss to go to AutoCAD, and we spent 4 or 5 years on AutoCAD, which is still relevant in our industry. You'll still find some firms that do it, but it's time-consuming and it doesn't work for a business model. We chose Revit for ours. Not because of money reasons or anything like that. They're pretty much the same costings for the products and the licensing. It was just we'd all had experience on it and spent 10 years using it, so there was no point changing our software, changing the hardware over now to something that we just wouldn't know and have to retrain.
Of course, yeah. And given the advancements in Autodesk going through with 12D BIM modeling, I think Revit's a popular choice. So,
absolutely.
How do you guys keep up with the continuous changes that happens with the software?
They force us to keep up. So it's a yearly subscription when you buy your license, and every year they send you a new one with a new updated version and little videos on what's changed, what's updated, and you're a subscriber, so you get the emails and you're expected to just basically do professional development and watch these videos and constantly know what's about to change in the software when you get it.
Yeah, so I guess there's no choice. If you're using it, you have to do it.
Yeah, there's no choice. So one of the changes we saw from 2018 to 19 was, it's minor, but it was just the way that we draw stairs now. Mm-hmm. They changed our buttons and they changed the way it works, and I'm still trying to work it out. And 2020 is about to come out.
Wow.
Some of them aren't always for the best.
This is actually the challenge that a lot of students and teachers have because of its rapid changes. They just can't keep up.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's a problem that even professionals using it every day have. So along with your the software applications, that's a given, right? So what kind of soft and hard skills do you use on a day-to-day basis as well? Do you still sketch?
Absolutely. I think sketching is vital to our industry. Sketching is vital to communicating with our clients and getting our vision across quickly. We'll be on site looking at a house and they're asking, what do you think we could do? That's piece of paper is valuable. and having some skills to sketch the house and sketch a little vision for them is just, it's mind-blowing, because I mean that's a difference between hooking them and winning them and getting them excited about the project, or going, he'll send us through something in a few days.
Yeah.
So it's I think it's extremely important to have that skill set, and I think it's just extremely important to keep the creativity going. I mean, you can be far more creative when you're sketching, and you can just it flows. You just come up with an idea that you can get out in a few seconds, rather than trying to figure out how to model it in 3D. You could lose that enthusiasm for it if you try to model it straight away.
100%. So if you break down the methodology of actually sketching, do you use trace paper? Now I can actually see trace paper sitting on the same table, so that's a given.
Yep.
How do you use the different medium? Do you actually sketch on tablets these days?
So this year we did. We've purchased all iPads with the pen, and we were with the idea that we'd go to site and start sketching with the iPads, and it was successful, and it's a little bit of fun and wows people, but I just don't think you can still beat the original medium of paper. The trace paper is just, there's a feel about it when you use it. It's just it's inspiring.
There you go. And I love the fact that you use the word inspiring. No, I love it. And what about communication skills, like in terms of public speaking or client presentations or anything like that?
Yeah, so that's I think that's something you really need to consider when you go into a career like this. It's not, you won't be sitting at a desk talking to yourself or sort of be isolated. It's everyone's involved. It's a very big collaborative kind of environment to work in, and you are expected to form a rapport with your clients. You are expected to get to know them and understand how they work, how their family works, what they're looking for. A few years ago, as a junior or working in other firms, I noticed it would be like mostly email and very formal. And since taking over our own company, it's very flexible and informal. Like, we call and chat, we become their friends, we join them on Facebook, we're friends with them on Instagram, we text them. Like, clients don't even like to call anymore. We just get text messages with thumbs up on a change they like. It's so informal, and I think it's just creating like a different vibe in the industry. It's no longer this like hoity-toity kind of area to be in, and I'm a designer, I'm fantastic. It's just, you're a creative person helping somebody else express what they want from their home.
It's making yourself, I think, approachable as a professional as well.
Oh, absolutely.
That's brilliant. And it's kind of interesting, because if we look back 10 or even 15 years ago, it would have been just emails or a once a week phone call. Now when you're receiving emojis or a thumbs up, like you said before, that's a whole different way of communicating, and I love it. So how do you keep up with how do you take the time to understand your client?
So to get to know our clients is, well, that's the most important part, because obviously we can't answer our part of the job without getting to know them. So we meet them at their house, we meet them at their site. We have coffee with them. We just sit down and chat, get to know them. We talk about their family, their children, their lifestyle. Just want to know, just really become a friend to them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we can't really form a correct brief or scope of work, so we need to know how they live.
So you're essentially describing empathy.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you empathize with your client, and does that directly start to inform how your concepts are derived?
Yes. So it really will be. It'll be like, they say we've got twin boys, and instantly they're going to be living in the same bedroom till they're 15, so give them something slightly larger, and then we'll separate them. Or two girls need time here, so they get a double vanity. It's little tricks you pick up along the way of working in the industry for so long. You just know it's like a code for something.
It's reading between the lines almost.
Yeah, you just know, like, okay, Mum says she doesn't have much time in the morning, so you give her a suite away where she can get ready, and the girls can get ready down the hallway in their own space without fighting, and then they can come together in the hub of the home and finish packing up and go to the mud room before they get to the car where everything's organised. It's just, you get to understand how a family really functions after you design a lot of homes for them.
Yeah, and it's knowing those things, and I bet those clients will feel really taken care of.
Oh, absolutely. I was at a finished product the other day over in Morningside, and we went for a walkthrough, and the house was stunning and beautiful and lovely, but the feel I got from the house was space and function. I just walked in and I could see everything was thought out. Every room had a purpose. Every hook had a purpose with the bag on it close to a certain door for a sporting event. It was just, and it just, and that only happened because I got to know the family and I got to know their routines and wrote a strong brief for them.
Yeah.
To start the project off.
Yeah. And obviously, when you mention writing a strong brief, most clients will come up to you and just say, I want this, I want 3 bedrooms, I want this marble because I love it. And so how do you write a strong brief? And do you actually, after having a set amount of time getting to know them and empathizing with them and understanding them, do you then detail that into a breakdown? Is it a description, a dot point? How does that look like?
It varies for every project. So some are just dot points. Some are so basic they can be dot points. Some is like a journey, like a little book through what we're going to do to transform their home. It's very interesting, and I think every family gets something slightly different each time.
Of course.
But I just lost my train of thought.
No, that's okay. It's quite unique because I've found this pattern coming through on almost every single design discipline, except just the end product's different. Whether it's an app or in an urban design scale where you're talking about a little city, or fashion designers, which I'll be doing in the future. It's all the same thinking, but just a slightly different use. So how do you think a building designer's thinking process is unique to, let's say, an architect? What's the main difference between those two other than the formal restrictions?
I don't think there is anything. I think a building designer and an architect, we are fundamentally doing the same job.
I love that.
I think building design was inserted in there in the 90s as a career option because there was just a huge gap between you're either an architect or you're a draftsman, and there was nothing in between. So there was a need for a service that could provide in the middle. And I think building design has definitely answered that for everyone for it. But then when it comes to a final product, I don't think there is anything an architect could do better or could do worse than a building designer. I think it's client driven. Obviously, if you get a fantastic client with a fantastic budget and a really great attitude, you're going to have a better product than from the other end. It's just the luck of the draw, really. I don't think it matters what field you're in.
No, look, I actually think I agree with you because it's going to piss off a few architects to hear this, but
absolutely, yeah.
I think it actually is the reality because, like you said, if you when you're explaining your process, your passion comes through on how much you actually spend time to know and understand and provide something that's unique to that client or that little family. And because of that, the end product is then also very unique. So if you're an architect or a building designer, that label is almost irrelevant, like you said. And it becomes about the client and how much, as the professional or the designer, we then care about that outcome.
Yeah. I think too, I read on a website not long ago that there was it said the quote was, architects feel they're capable of a better level of detail and design than a building designer ever could. Now, I disagree with that, obviously, but then I think that just comes down to who you hire and the talent that each person has.
Yep.
So I think, nobody's perfect. There's going to be bad ones in every field. But I think with the building design, we're nestled in the middle there, so we will never be regarded as high as an architect. So therefore, the feeling is we can never charge as high as an architect. I think that will change eventually, and people will realize. But for now, that's pretty much where we sit. So it's kind of people look at building design as perhaps the cheaper alternative, but it doesn't maybe cheaper, but it doesn't mean you get a less product. Yeah. So I think it's just more a case of finding someone that you like, that you work with, check out their portfolio, because just because you pay more doesn't mean you get a better product.
Of course, yeah. And I think you see that in any industry where depending on the architect, they might be exactly the same amount of experience, but they're both called architects. The end product quality is different, and it's the same for building designers. So yeah, that's great. And I actually really commend you for sticking with that, even though it is going to ruffle a few feathers.
Yes.
And this is a bit of a tangent, but I have this quote that I live by: "Become the architect of your own future." It's cool. And because the word architect is also cool, it works with it, but it has nothing to do with actually the building design industry or the design industry. It's more of a lifestyle choice. But sorry, it was a tangent. Anyway, let's get back on things. And one of the things that I wanted to ask was, you've mentioned these words already: empathy. It's a collaborative process. And the last value of the standard design thinking process is experimentation. So those three, empathy, collaboration, and experimentation, is design thinking. How important do you think that is within the building design industry?
Oh, extremely. I mean, I think every single project that comes across our desk or through our door, we experiment with.
Yeah.
There is no point taking the safe road on anything when you could be at the end of the project asking, what if I did that? What if I added a curve? What if I did an angle here? What if I changed my thinking completely and pushed the house to this side? Like, I just think the philosophy we take when we design is just, like, again, with sketching, it takes 5 minutes to see if this idea will pan out. Why not do it? Like, I just think you need to have fun and explore absolutely everything possible for this project before you select a path to go down and finish up for concept work. Like, I think it's very important.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very valuable piece of advice. But one of the questions that I think the younger students ask, and I think have trouble with, is knowing when to stop experimentation. Because at the end of the day, because it's a design project, you can do it for 5 years or you could do it in 3 months, depending on the deadline of your client.
Yeah.
So how do you, as a professional, do you have any techniques on understanding when your experimentation part is done?
Well, yeah, that one is pretty easy, black and white for us, because we have timeframes to work to, we have budgets to work to, and we have to be able to construct it. Mm-hmm. So our imagination can go crazy and wild, but at the end of the day, it has to be something that can be engineered, built to a budget.
Yeah.
And we have a brief to follow. So if we're taking it too far left of the brief and we know it's going to be a stretch for the clients to accept, that's the point where you refine and pull back.
Yeah.
And, you can push their minds a little bit outside the box to go, wow, I would never have considered that, but I wouldn't. The worst thing you could ever do is go, oh, here's something that's completely not what you thought about, and it's 300,000 over budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that comes naturally for our industry and our business here, because we have to manage all sides of it. We have to manage the budget to the time frame to their brief.
Yeah, and I think those are the real world constraints that any professional has to work with. So is it through experience? Do you think you learn how to balance that? Absolutely.
I think the first few years into this career, I would have had no clue. I would have just been drawing really fun, crazy things and going, yeah, that's cool. I could try and build that.
Yeah.
But now so many years in, I know it's an internal process I have that works. As soon as we get a new project, it's just, the first things that go through my mind.
Yeah.
Of this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to run, and this is what we've got to meet.
Yeah, no, I like that you just shared that little bit of insight into your own psyche. And look, I think the juniors that you have here are probably going through and forming their own little processes and design methodologies. So it's unique to each person as well. So I'm very happy to hear that, actually. Now, if I may go down a slightly different topic, everyone's aware of the fourth industrial revolution happening, and I recently spoke about this at a conference as well. Given how everything combining with intelligence and connectedness is bringing everything together. We have, I think, over 3 billion applications on our phone now, and it's just ridiculous. Like, we used to just use a phone to make phone calls. That's probably the least thing that we do now.
Yeah.
Right? So with these rapid technology changes, we have things like VR, augmented reality, and artificial intelligence coming into the design world. How do you see this impact the building design industry?
It's definitely already impacted, but we don't look at it as a scary thing. It's something quite fun. So we already use VR in our firm here. So we walk our clients through software that links into Revit that, we can walk them through, see their kitchens, bathrooms, then we put the visual goggles on them and they look at their interiors and the selections and everything they've picked. Like it's something that's already here. I'd say at the moment it's still a novelty for our clients and our industry, and there's probably a few firms that have really embraced it and offered it as a part of the actual structure that they offer as a package. But we're looking forward to exploring it more and putting it into use throughout our projects. But again, it just it comes down to that time frame thing again, because as soon as you implement another level of software on top and another level of documentation and time, you've got to look at everything again, your budgets, your time frames, and how it all works. So it becomes a balancing act of what we implement and what we don't. But at the same time, we remain conscious that we want to implement enough to stay relevant and current in the industry and not fall behind and be like the AutoCAD people of the world.
Yeah, so. No, that's actually, I think, wise advice there. But how do you think, if someone's looking at becoming a building designer and say they're entering in the next 3 to 5 years, do you think they should be investing time into learning these skills and honing those skills in so that they can start to use it?
Absolutely. I think like Photoshop is another one. Like it's an old software, but it's still very relevant.
I love Photoshop.
Yeah, like half our staff here, they all use Photoshop, and it's a godsend. Like it's just like, thank you, you know how to use that, because we need you to edit this and add this and put this background in. And I think people absolutely should keep relevant and up to date with it, because it's going to look good on your resume when you're applying all these extra skill sets you have, and just to know what's out there and what's coming.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, something that I've spoken a few times about is augmented reality. Now, SketchUp in combination with Microsoft HoloLens has released some really incredible things that they're testing in the US market, so it hasn't necessarily filtered to Australia yet, where you can actually be on site and collaborate through the cloud and understand discrepancies in the design at a concept level through AR. So they can actually see the physical building, but it's overlaid on top of the reality now. And you can understand this door here is conflicting with one of the structural columns, so we actually need to move it. Or actually, you know what, that window doesn't work. The client can have a headset on, the builder's got a headset on, the designer's got a headset on. So it's actually really incredible, and all at a concept level. How do you see this being a game changer? I feel like it would be.
Oh, well, it'd be a huge advantage to have. I mean, it's taking 3 industries that need to work together, construction, engineering, and designer, putting them together, collaborating them, so it takes out any guesswork of, is this being too big for this spot? Will it fit? Will we have a clash here? I think, we have software like that at the moment that's already out there. BIM, it's like our base model for Revit, and there is anti-clash software out there that we work with a few engineers throughout Brisbane that we send our Revit model, they actually model it in, and it will send out a warning if our floor pack isn't big enough, if we've put a steel column halfway through a doorway or something stupid like that. So that it's already in place, but I think that next level that you were talking about, I think that's going to be priceless for us. I think that's going to change everything. But whether or not the application works for mum and dad renovation in the suburbs, is that too far to do that for them, or is it sort of more scaled to the larger projects?
True, yeah. And I think this is the exciting part, because we're in that transition phase where all these new technologies are growing really quickly, but at the same time it's not so streamlined and used widely enough. So combining that AI coding and things like that, combining with the AR world and then the VR world, I feel like the next 5 to 10 years is going to be really cool and honestly fun. I'm a little excited given that I'm actually physically not in the industry, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I get nervous updating my phone. This is more software.
Anyway, one of the last things that I always ask from our speakers is, what kind of resources can the listeners go so that they can learn about building design if they want to? Are there any magazines or websites or people that they can speak to or look at?
For the actual industry itself, and to sort of look at getting your education through it, I think the best thing you can do is Google the course name, so just building design and technology, and it'll bring up your options through there for, what TAFE and what campuses offer it, and funding for it, or HEX fees for it, and so forth. If you are already in the industry and you're working as a draftsperson, you can get recognised prior learning, and you can go Skill Tech Australia, and you can get signed off on a few things, and then that will put you into the course to finish to get your certificates, so you don't feel like you've spent a few years in the industry and you already have a base knowledge of it. You can just pick up from there. The resources, and to keep in touch with the latest things and the trends today, it's looking around, really. It's just being aware of what trends are changing, and all the magazines that come out, like House and Grand Designs, and the 1,000,001 reality TV shows we have now about building and construction. I mean, they're mostly about drama now, but like they're extremely helpful. Like last night I was reading the latest House magazine, and there's probably 5 houses in there that I was drooling over that are all actually in Brisbane already, in New Farm and Tenerife. I was like, oh, they're just stunning. Like, and, it's some ideas I've seen, some ideas that I've seen used a lot, a couple of fresh ones in there. But I mean, that's what architecture is, really. It's putting your own spin on something that's been done, or try to find a new way to create it, or just putting, having some fun with it and putting some of your expression through it.
It's wherever you find inspiration to progress your design capabilities, I think. There you go. So you've heard it here first, guys. And Ryan, I think I've learned so much, personally speaking, and I think the listeners are going to gain a lot from it. And so thank you so much for coming today.
That's awesome. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.